Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the podcast on marketing. We are so excited for you today to be listening in, dear Patriot, because today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of digital channels. Of course, we always say we have a special guest. Today's guest is very special. He's an expert who has navigated the complex landscapes of FMCG, media, civil society. He has such remarkable skill. So please join me as we welcome Daniel Odaka, the Digital Channels Manager at Airtel Uganda. Daniel, welcome to the podcast on Uganda.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. It's an honor being here. I'm excited about the questions, the conversation we're going to have.
Let's dive straight into it. But before we go into the good stuff of digital, why don't we get to you a little bit? So you have nearly a decade of experience. You've really seen the evolution of digital marketing across several sectors. But can you tell us a story about how you got into marketing? How did you start?
Okay, there's usually a running gag about marketing where it's believed that no one has ever met a child who says they want to be a marketer when they grow up.
That's true. I haven't met one until now.
Neither did I. I didn't want to do marketing. I didn't even know what it was. I call it luck. I really call it luck. I was so lucky that I got into the marketing space, especially the digital marketing space, right out of university.
Okay.
Actually, even before I graduated, I jumped straight into that. My marketing journey began at New Vision, the New Vision Group. It wasn't an internship. It was about 3 months, and I was a social media manager for 3 months.
New Vision, one of the biggest media houses in Uganda, for those of you listening.
Yes,
Uganda.
That one right there. So it was one of those experiences where I was just thrown into the fire, and I started learning straight on the job. My duties were simple: just update the socials with content. Pick the content from what the writers put on the website and then put it on the socials. So that was, at the time, Facebook was still active. It was Facebook, it was Twitter. Soon after that, I pivoted to comms in the NGO space. It was social media and communications at an NGO called Atrocities Watch. I did that for about 2 years. And then I moved to the world of advertising, the advertising agency, one of the prominent ones. I was at Fireworks Advertising. I joined Fireworks as a senior digital media executive. Basically, my job was to run the digitals. I think that for me is what I call my graduation to marketing. The other two experiences were more like, nursery and then primary school. Fireworks was the actual graduation, where I went headfirst into, first and foremost, social media management on a large scale. I handled brands like Pepsi, Mirinda, I did Jessa, I did African Queen, I did MasterCard Foundation. There was a body called Africa FinTech and Conference, a group of FinTech owners and enthusiasts. Yes, I got to do work for Movit. I got to do a little work for NSSF. So I started to just dabble in a couple of things.
Yeah.
That was the start, where I call my graduation. It really helped me understand digital marketing, how the social media marketing work. I was moved over to management, where I became the digital manager. Now that was me managing other people, which was a different ballgame altogether. Yes, I was still doing the digital work, but now I'm managing, I'm mentoring, I'm helping other people grow, especially younger people. So that was good, that was fun. And after that, here I am at Airtel, Digital Channels Manager, which again, it's more mentorship.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. To start it off, I really want to share my condolences with you. We recently had Frank on the podcast.
Yes.
And
yes.
To us in the industry, it's so sad to have lost such a pivotal individual in the
sector. It's really, really sad. May his soul rest in eternal peace for sure.
His soul rest in peace. But then I want to pick up from that. So on podcast with Frank, he actually mentioned that most agencies are still doing social media. We need more agency doing digital, and we couldn't have had any other better person to explain digital channels to us. People interchange them for social media. Would you kindly give the distinction between digital and social media so that people actually know the difference, and why digital? Why should any entrepreneur care about digital?
Okay, I feel like that question has been a long time coming for me. In the simplest of terms, social media is a segment of digital marketing. Okay? Digital marketing is a segment of marketing as a whole. So most of the times the confusion comes in when someone says, I do digital marketing, and they make it seem like it's an entirely new craft. Ideally, digital marketing, it's just on a different platform. It's more digital.
Yeah.
The difference between digital and the traditional is tracking and impact. So the traditional is usually tied by geographical hindrances. So a billboard, a newspaper is going to go so far, but digital platforms, they're global, you speak to the whole world, but also you can track. You can never know how many people saw a billboard in a day, but I can know how many people saw a post or saw an ad. Yeah, so that's digital marketing, but then social media is just one component of it. Social media sticks to social media platforms, the social media channels, the Facebooks, Instagrams, TikToks of the world, Snapchat, etc., etc. That is social. And the thing is, it's just one part. The beauty about social, which is also the downside to it, I don't say it's easy, but it's readily available and it's easy to understand. If I have a Twitter channel, if I have a Twitter account, I have a bit of an understanding of what to expect from a Twitter account from a brand or like a public figure. People think they understand what it is. That's why I don't say it's easy, but it's slightly easier to get into, slightly easier to execute, as opposed to other bits of digital marketing, things like email marketing, search engine optimizations, marketing, web app, mobile development, and things like that. So social media, one, is one of the easiest segments to get into, and it's one of the fancy looking ones. I say fancy looking ones because it looks nice when you have many followers. It looks nice when you get many engagements. But at the same time, it's one of those whose impact is a little difficult to quantify when it comes to the gist of things. When it comes to a company that is selling, for instance, soda, it's very difficult to quantify the impact of something like social media to the guy in finance, the guy who's going to be paying, the guy who's expecting money to come in. It becomes a little tricky. So it's easy to get in, it's easy to understand. It's just one of those that has not as much impact as the other segments or the other channels within digital marketing would have. So I think that's the distinction. Social media is just one element of the big thing that's called digital marketing, and digital marketing is just one element of this big thing called marketing.
Right, you've rightly put it, and I wouldn't have explained it better. So thank you so much. And of course, that insight comes with a great lot of experience. Like I said earlier on, dear patriots, Daniel has over a decade of experience, and he just mentioned he's been running social media platforms for different brands. He worked at an agency and now at a big teleco. So now, Daniel, if we were to take us back to time, what are the trends you have noticed along the way in digital channels? Because you started out with social media and then later on you are now focused on digital. Give us a rundown of what you're noticing and what people are taking seriously.
Okay, the thing about trends in the market, not just digital, but the marketing space, is they come and they go, but they seem to have a pattern. Yeah. And the pattern is the latest technology.
Yeah.
One of the things I used to tell my team was when you're doing digital marketing, you're always playing catch up because if the platform you're using changes, if the internet changes tomorrow, you need to change. The golden thread when it comes to trends is technology. So usually when there's a change in technology, you can expect a new trend to come about. Now, the number one being generative AI. I'm going to say generative AI, not just AI in general, because there are different kinds of AI, okay? So I'm going to stick with generative AI, the one that we all know, e.g. ChatGPT, Gemini, Llama, etc. That's generative AI, which is now the big thing. It's now the in thing, I'll say. It's what people are using to create content. It's what people are using to create new things. It's what many of these consumer-focused platforms are using to make people's experiences better. Things like Copilot. It has its pros and cons. To me, it has more pros than it does cons. The cons are mostly because people misuse it or people just don't understand how to use it. I keep telling people that I consult with or people that I train that AI is a tool. AI is not a replacement, it's just a tool. The same way you'd have a hammer, the same way you'd have a computer. The computer is not going to replace you at your job. It's just going to make your job easier. So if you put all your trust in a computer and think that because I have a computer, I'm going to be the best thing after sliced bread, then there's a problem. But it's one of those things that's picking up and it has multitudes of users. I personally use it sometimes when generating content or brainstorming. I run a YouTube channel on top of what I do 9 to 5. So
Yes,
when it
we're
comes to
looking forward to hearing
brainstorming,
about more of that.
yeah, so when it comes
But
to
you can
brainstorming,
continue.
when it comes to when it comes to creating ideas, I definitely use generative AI. I also use it for images. Sometimes when you're consulting with someone or you're working on a presentation, instead of having to go buy copyright-free images, stock images, AI
Yeah.
helps. So generative AI is very big. It has many users. I think that's like a whole other podcast on the uses of generative AI. That's one. The second is content. Now, content has evolved over time. Content has been one of the biggest pillars in the digital marketing space because content is the lifeblood of digital marketing now, and especially social media. Now, content creation or content generation has evolved in terms of the way it is done or the effect it has or what people do with it. Previously, content creation was more show and tell. I have this piece of content I want to show you that I can do this, I can do the other, which is also where you find TikTok thrived when it was coming in. It was a lot of show and tell. Like I
Yeah.
show you and tell you, and we all have a good time. But now it's evolving into growth of brands through things like storytelling. It's now helping one of the cornerstones of community building, where you cannot have a community if you don't have good content. Or sometimes you create a community just out of the fact that you have amazing content. Some of the communities that I really, really love, there's an online community called the Bible Society.
Okay.
It's literally just talking about Bible stories, but because of the way they do their content, it
Mm-hmm.
has a whole community following them. You find there's a show on YouTube, S&G, with these two British gentlemen, Fuhad and James. All they do is just talk and about things happening in their society.
Yeah.
And it's a form of content, and they've built a community around that. So it's gone from just show and tell to a tool for building communities, a tool for growing brands through storytelling. And I think it's just going to keep growing and keep evolving into, I don't know what next. Probably, I don't know. It will be the tool for running a country, maybe.
Yeah.
The other, I would say, trainings. Yes. Because of the growth of digital and the need for
What was
digital,
that?
it's becoming an activity, a niche activity of its own that is also picking up critical mass. So there's a need for information, there's a need for skilling, and you find that a lot of people are now getting into training. Those professionals, people that have done stuff over time, are getting into training, and it's now becoming one of those key pillars of digital. Besides the AI and content creation and curation,
Yeah.
trainings are becoming one of the biggest activities that is pushing the agenda of digital. Not only because people are learning new skills, but it's also giving people the chance to showcase what they know, what they have, and the more you teach, the more you have to learn, and the better you get at something. So
Absolutely. Just benefit from knowing that someone else has benefited from the insights you share.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great. Those are three trends that you think people are taking seriously and you have
Mhm.
personally taken seriously. You've given such great insights, and I couldn't agree more on the digital tracking. In my 9 to 5, I work a lot of the time with journalists and media houses, but in
Mm,
most cases, the clients want to see the return on investment in terms of reach. Like if I run my ad on your TV in that time space, how many people are watching it, listening? But I will tell you, they will not give you the exact stats on that. And I
yeah,
really hope that they find a technology to help them. Just to shout out to podcasts, it's beautiful what podcast stats are showing us. They will show us who has listened into the podcast from start to finish, the demographic,
yeah.
the age, female, what phones they're using, the devices and browsers. It's just fantastic. So
It's
I couldn't
fantastic.
agree.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more with you. And for the show and tell you talked about, I was telling you earlier, because Google
Yeah.
Podcasts shut down its podcast section, now it's pushing more YouTube videos. And that means podcasts that were predominantly audio now need to be
Yes.
audio visual
Video.
just for the show
Yes.
and tell. So it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you for those practical examples as well.
All
Now
right.
that you've given that background, if someone
Mhm.
is listening right now and they're not sure what we're talking about, what are the practical ways that someone can adapt digital strategies for their business? What should they be mindful of?
Okay, adopting digital strategies is, I'm always is one of the scariest things ever to be done in any corporate business. Adopting digital strategies is difficult and it is scary for many because it's a very uncharted territory. It's really uncharted territory. So it gets scary for many, but at the same time, it's doable. Other people have done it and we can all do it. Now, for people trying to get into the digital strategy and implementing that in your company, it's important, number one, to know the stuff. Important to know the stuff. If you don't know the stuff, it's not going to work. So digital is more or less a science, and it's very hard to argue with science. So you need to know the stuff. You need to know exactly what, you know, that the different kinds of digital marketing, you know, the different elements, the different channels and things that align with it. Number two, you need to have what I'd call the right stakeholders. If you have a business, it could be small, it could be large, and you want to go digital, it's very, very important for you to get the right stakeholders on board. And by stakeholders, I mean management, the staff, the customers as well. Yeah. The one example that I usually share when people talk about digitalization or going digital or adopting digital strategies is StanChart, the bank.
Yeah.
StanChart woke up one day and decided they want to close branches.
Yeah.
All right. You go download the app and figure it out from that point on. For people that are not app or tech or digital savvy, it's scary. Oh my God, I'm now going to have to do everything on an app. How sure my money is safe? How sure am I that everything is going to work out? What if there are problems? Who do I talk to?
Right.
So you see, it's scary for most people. Sometimes even the management, it would be scary. But if the people know their stuff and the right stakeholders are involved, then you realize that it becomes easier to implement. If the management is on board, it cascades the strategy down to the staff. The staff then cascade that strategy down to the customers. It becomes easy for everyone to adopt. It's been a couple of years and Stanbic's still standing. You know, it's one of those good banks.
StanChart.
Oh, sorry, StanChart. Yes, StanChart is still, no, it's still standing. It's still going strong. The other thing is try as much as you can. Okay. The one truth that lives in the digital space that many people do not want to accept, especially people up higher up in management, is this stuff's try and error. A lot of this is try and error. A lot of this is try and error. So
like you
need to
said,
be
the technology keeps evolving, so you need to evolve.
Yes. Yes, so it's try and error. You need to be able to try. You need to create an environment where you can try stuff. You can fail safely. Yeah. I believe in sandboxes. Yeah. For companies, organizations trying to get into digital or digital strategy, create sandboxes, a little environment where people can experiment and fail without fear of apprehension. Okay. So it's try and error. You try and you fail, then you try again and until you get it right. So it's important to try. The other thing is pivoting, being not being afraid to pivot. So the thing about pivoting is switching direction. You know, sometimes you have this idea, you believe this is the best idea that you've ever had, and then it just does not work. It just doesn't work, and you don't want to force it to work. So pivot. If you're looking at getting into digital strategy, you need to be looking into pivoting and how easy it is for you to pivot. Because when things are not working, change. And then the last thing I would add
given the stats and data or the insights from your try and error.
Exactly. Then the other bit is always learn, always learn. Remember, we always playing catch up to technology, to trends. So always learn, always be willing to learn. Learn what's new, learn what works. Again, go back, try it, fail, try again, get it right, and then engage the stakeholders, or cascade it down to everybody, and then you move.
I would like to remind the Patriots that there's an episode by Eustace Aribariho. At the time, he was the head of digital banking, Africa and United Arab Emirates. He talks about how Standard Chartered also closed most of its town halls, and it was just a fantastic move. I now want to dig deeper into the practical ways, right? There's a myriad of channels for them to join based on knowing their staff, they've known their stakeholders, they have pivoted. Which ones do they choose to go to?
Okay. So picking the channels you use in digital is It comes down to what your needs are. Yeah. Now we need to
Yeah.
understand that not all the channels serve the same purpose. So each of the channels has a different element, it serves a different need, it serves a different audience. So you need to understand first and foremost the problem that you have that is requiring you to go digital, and then customize your solution to the problem. The one challenge that we have in the digital space is people believe one size fits all, which is the farthest thing from the truth. It's absolutely the farthest thing from the truth. One size does not fit all in digital. You need to customize your digital channels or the platforms or the strategies that you're using to the problem you're trying to solve. Okay. So you can find that sometimes you don't even need social media. When
Yeah.
people say they're going digital and then the first thing they do is go social media, you don't need social media all the time. If, let's say, you're a distributor, you don't necessarily need social media. You need an online platform where people can buy stuff, then you distribute more than anything.
Yeah.
If you're a small business and you sell scarves, yeah, why do you need a website?
Yeah.
Instagram is fine. Instagram is totally fine for you there. And then you find someone like that does not even need Twitter if they're going social media. Just pick one and
Yeah.
pick Instagram and go with that. Then you'll find there's some businesses where email is the thing. If you don't have email, you're going to struggle. You're going to find those where it's going to be a mix of them. So before you jump into digital, before you jump into the tools, ask yourself, what problem do I have? And once you answer honestly the problem that you have, you do a SWOT analysis, just understand your strengths, weaknesses,
Yeah.
threats, or opportunities, just understand that bit.
Yeah.
Once you understand that much and you're honest with yourself, then you get to look at what do each of these platforms offer. Okay. You find things like social media is intimate, but it's crowded. So you don't expect to have intimate conversations there with your customers, right? You want to find that email is detailed, but eh, it's for a specific group of people.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, are my people there? Or does email suit these people? There's some products or services that just don't need a web platform. Then there are those that definitely do. So you need to, on top of understanding your problem, now go and look at the different platforms and ask yourself, okay, what does this platform do? What does this platform do? What does this offer? What is the strength of this platform? Then you align your problem with the strength of the channel that you're going with,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
once you do that, then you go back to the previous points of try and try again until you get it right. Pivot when things are not going well, and then learn and learn until you get it right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Earlier you articulated very well the perfect
Mhm.
blend between technology and understanding your customers' needs or
Yes.
the solution you're trying to offer your customers or users.
Mm.
So now,
Yes.
in this sense, from where you sit, I would like to know
Yes.
what campaigns have really sparked something in you and you thought, yeah, they hit it right.
I'll start with the one I admire from a distance. It's for Old Spice.
Okay.
The men's grooming brand Old Spice. Old Spice is the only company whose products are used because they advertised right. It's the only one. All the others, they're options. Okay. And if I choose it for one or another reason, Old Spice is just completely because they advertised and they advertised right. The campaign, the man your man should smell like.
Ooh.
The man your man should smell. Now, Old
I know
Spice,
exactly what I want my man to smell like.
yes. So it was an interesting campaign because one, Old Spice is an old brand. Yeah, my granddad used to use Old Spice that far back. So Old Spice discovered that a lot of their audience was the older men and they're losing the younger guys.
Yeah.
So they thought about what is their strength. They have amazing products, they have a good heritage, and they have money.
It sounds like Johnny Walker.
But with a twist, because they got their strength, then looked at their threats, they looked at their weaknesses. Now, one of the weaknesses was it appeals to old people, not young men. Okay. Then the threat was all these other brands that, Axe body spray or all these other colognes that were coming up that were speaking to the younger person. And the opportunity they picked was this: young men are influenced by the women in their lives.
Uh-huh.
So they decided to market a men's brand but through
To
women.
women. Yeah.
Yes. So they had two ads actually. So the campaign was the man your man should smell like. Direction number one was targeting women, where they're
Mhm.
like, hey, do you want your man to smell like these things? Or the heroic one, like a ship captain or whatever guy sailing on the seas. It was all fancy and nice, yeah. And when you think about it, if a guy has this woman in his life and she gifts him this thing, chances are high he's going to say yes. And then once the thing works, it smells good, it feels good, yeah. Then they had another side which was for men, and for men it was just chaos. The ads, if you watch those ads, they had Terry Crews was the star in the ad. It was just chaos. They were loud, they were obnoxious, but they were fun. They were all the things men secretly like those guilty pleasures. They want to
Yeah.
be goofy, they want to be silly, and the ads spoke to that. So that's one of the campaigns they look at and say, you guys really thought this stuff through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to look out Allspice. My husband uses Nivea, so I think
Oh,
it's
what
Nivea
once
cream or
once he
something.
tries Allspice, it's over.
I'll be able to tell him that. I'll be sure to let him know.
The one that I have worked on, Pepsi Max. Pepsi Max, the Pepsi Max launch, I feel very strongly about that brand because in a way it feels like one of my babies.
Okay,
Because when it was launching, I did the digital strategy for it.
nice.
And the thing about Pepsi Max is it's a different kind of drink. Okay, it's a soda, yes, but zero sugar has a competitor in Coke Zero. And the thing is, Coke Zero already had a market share. People knew Coke Zero. And then here comes this new Pepsi Max brand. And first of all, okay, zero sugar for some people doesn't taste right. It doesn't feel right. So we asked ourselves, how do we make it make sense? Yeah. And because it was different, we just looked at what are the strengths of this brand. It has a backing of Pepsi. It's bold. It's all these things. Yes,
Yeah,
there are threats from other sodas or the biggest competition, but there were opportunities in there because it's new and Ugandans love new things. And the people who usually love new things are young, the vibrant, the bold guys. The bold
yeah.
people, those who are not afraid to try.
The
When everyone is running
passion.
away from something, they're going to try it.
Yeah.
Yes, those ones. So we decided to target the young, the bold, the funky, the happy-go-lucky people. Those who want to be cool. I don't want to just drink a soda. I want to drink a cool soda, right? I want to be standing in the corner over there and everyone sees me and they're like, that guy is different. That guy is cool. Now
Really?
that was the
Is that
person.
what people
Yeah,
think when they drink a soda?
this one. That's what we wanted people to think when they get
Okay.
Pepsi Max.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
mean,
just it's not just the soda.
I'm just thinking about my nephews and nieces drinking soda and running around the place like as chicken.
Oh yes, if you sit down and have conversations with them, you realize that there's some sodas that are cool, and then there are those sodas that are just there.
I'm definitely going to ask them this question and I'll send you a video on WhatsApp.
Please do. So that's exactly what we wanted. And we were like, you know what, let's go for that person who wants to feel and wants to look cool. Okay. So you realize that the communications that came out and the strategies we went with, we didn't just make noise. We made noise, but we were cool about it. I remember the visuals that we had, the posters, the artwork that we did was black and white. Everyone's used to color. It was black
Yeah,
and white.
yeah.
And then the words were crossed out. You don't just speak. Now we speak in quotation marks, we speak in exclamations. What doesn't make sense, we cross it out because we're different. We're cool. So for me, that's the campaign I worked on, the launch of Pepsi Max. And I felt we hit this one right. In the digital realm, the content was right on point. The influencers were right. We
Okay.
did a lot of stuff on social media because it was just about awareness.
Yeah.
And for me, it hit home. The message hit home, and I
Okay.
believe it stuck.
Throughout your sharings, you talked about technology, digital advancement. If you had the power to change something in this country to help people in digital or people who work within several digital channels,
Yes.
what would you change?
The first one would be access to the internet. Yes, I know the UN made the access to internet a human right, but we need to understand the impact the internet has. The impact of the internet is beyond what people presume or what we
Mm.
might think it is. And
It's
having access to the internet is having access to almost every book in the world.
that's
It's access to almost everybody in the world. It's access to professionals. It's access to information. It's access to so many things. I
yeah.
feel like if I could change anything, I would make the internet readily available to everyone, everywhere, at an affordable cost. That it needs to be affordable. The other thing I would change would be education, basically.
Mm.
We need to have more education that is outward looking as opposed to inward. I'm not an educator, I'm not a teacher, but I believe a lot of the stuff that I learned, I call it inward looking. So we're getting things from everywhere else around the world, and it was being poured into us. We never got to learn about the outside world. No, it was until I got older, it was until I got the resources, I then started to learn stuff outwardly.
You do history?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But hey,
Geography,
I did history
Daniel.
in my A levels. I did history, economics, geography, and literature. But then you see the history that I did, I can go for hours about Napoleon and the French Revolution and
Yeah.
all these things. All right. I could go for
Swiss Canal.
hours about the exactly Tennessee Valley Authority, all these different things that we learned. Okay. But then it's going to take me some time to break down global finance trends. I won't have to go back and think
Mm.
about it or read about it.
Yeah.
Yet currently, hey, that's what makes sense. All right. Yeah, it's nice to know about all these things. I'm very good at bar trivia. I'm
Yeah.
a champion somewhere. Those ends, trust me. But I find that stuff's good for trivia. It's
Yeah.
not really important information for other things in life. So I find if we want to learn, can we learn a bit more outwardly? Learn about
Mm.
other things, learn about things that are to do with the future, with us, and
Yeah.
moving forward. On the policy side of things, I would think taxation. Taxation is something that I would revisit. I'll not scrap, I'll revisit. Taxation is important. We need money to build our nation, but we need to be smart about it. I find taxation makes digital adoption nowadays a bit difficult. Many companies, many brands are trying to run adverts, they're trying to get digital, but then you find that the taxes on these services are starting to pile up.
Yeah.
And it becomes difficult. Can we get the devices that enable us get online and help us with our activities?
Yeah.
Can we get the services as well and get them at an affordable rate? Those are three things that I don't want to mention too many, just those three things that I think would have a great impact on the
Mm.
industry, would have a great impact for
Yeah.
anyone in the marketing space.
Looking at your LinkedIn, one of your colleagues, Faisal, said that you are a master builder. I would want to pick your brain on the future of the digital channels.
Oh, what would we be talking about in 5 years from now in the digital marketing space, right? Besides AI, really, because I believe we're stuck with there for another 30 years. But I would think the future of digital, number one, we'll have a better understanding of what digital is. So we'll be having a higher level conversation. We'll not be talking about just social media. We'll be talking about search engine optimization a lot. We'll be talking about different platforms that we could use. That's
Yeah.
one. So our conversation will be different, will be at a higher level. Unfortunately, right now, much as digital is playing catch up to tech, we're also playing catch up to the world.
Right.
In terms of the channels, I feel like in the next 5 years, we'll be having more customized channels for us to use. So currently, a lot of the channels that we have are they're very generic. The social medias are generic. The email tries to be a bit more, customizable. But I think most of the channels that we would have would be more, one, user-centric, two, more personal. In that,
Given the channels they are today, I think there's going to be a lot more of them and a lot more confusion. I don't
yes,
know.
confusion, not really. I would say the confusion would come in the fact that each platform would want to speak to an individual. And I'd also think, again, as you've said, would have a lot more platforms out there. I believe, much as yes, we have those that are dominant now, over time, new ones will come. I think that would be it for me. And I'll just end it with an example, especially of that last point of new platforms. My niece recently turned teen, And she tells her mom, hey, I'd like a phone. I'd like a smartphone for my birthday. And so the mom gets a smartphone. And so we're helping her set it up. And you're like, okay, so you can download WhatsApp, you can download these things. And she's like, WhatsApp? WhatsApp is for old people. I'm like, huh? What do you mean WhatsApp is for old people? Like, yeah, WhatsApp is for old people. So we asked, how do you speak to your friends? Snapchat and iMessage. And at that point, first of all, I felt very old. But also it
Sorry,
pointed to the
Daniel.
fact that the fact that there's always going to be something new. There's
Yeah.
always going to be something new. And what I've realized is with all the new things, they aim to be as personal as they can. Snapchat wants every user to feel like this is my space, this is my Snapchat,
Yeah.
and then I'm sharing it with my friends. So I would
Mhm.
think there are going to be more platforms, but then they'll also want to be a lot more personalized with
Yeah.
time. And much as there will be many, all that will be aided by AI. AI will be a very big
Yeah.
thing in making that happen.
Daniel, that's all we had time for today. One very last question we ask every guest that comes onto the podcast on Uganda. Are you ready?
All right, I'm
So,
ready. Hit me.
what do you think it's going to take to achieve a middle class economy?
I'm going to mention two things. They're not the only things, but to me, these two things, very, 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 very important.
Yeah.
Number one, education. Education is very, very important. Our education needs to be in tune with the times. The better educated we are, the more we can earn, not just within here, but out Uganda, the more we can create. If we can create, we can attract. If not, we go out and then bring back. Number two would be infrastructure. Now, infrastructure needs to get better, not just the roads and the physical infrastructure, but the internet, the services.
Yeah.
The better the infrastructure, the smoother our lives get. And if you can worry less about survival,
Yeah.
then you can worry more about thriving, hence a better economy. Again, if I had the power to, I would start there.
Excellent. Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us for free. And we definitely find that very invaluable. I think this episode has been very enlightening. And like the Patriots know, they love episodes with digital, anything tech, anything social media. So thank you so much for that. Where can we find you?
My handle is the same across the board at the Dan Odaka. On LinkedIn, it's Daniel Odaka. Yes. You can also find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that I run with a friend called Josh. The channel is called CDJ Marketing. We talk marketing, we talk business, we talk growth for
Absolutely.
businesses, but also professionals.
Yeah, I watched some YouTube videos. I highly recommend you to listen to it. So please go and watch Daniel and his friend Josh as they continue to share their knowledge that they have gathered along the way.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from the patrons.